warm welcome, dear students and audience. This is the first chapter of The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy that we are going to start with in order to understand the text, post-colonial text especially, and also to know how has Arundhati Roy represented her people in India. So that's the title. First of all, Paradise Pickles and Preserves. Paradise, some word which sounds very good sounds and vibes among us because paradise is also the paradise which we all aspire for. Then is the name pickles and preserve. Pickles are the things which are mostly sour and mostly very ticklish to the tongue, and also some of the preservations are there. So the life is going to be like that, as it can be like the pickles, like paradise, and like it can be preserves as well. So that is why the chapter is going to represent almost all the things which the story will be telling to us. But first of all, dear students, let us notice that the start of the chapter is really just like Chaucer's prologue to the Canterbury Tales, as he, for example, in the beginning of his book
It's
introduced
19 hours.
the plants, plantation, and after that he came to the birds and the flowers, and ultimately came to the human being. In the same way, here also, when we read the first passage, for example, the first line says that May in Eminim is a hot, brooding month. The days are long and humid, the river shrinks in black rose gorge and bright mangoes, in still dust green trees, etc., etc. So, the very first opening of the novel tells, first of all, the time about which the story is going to be. It's the month of May, and mangoes and red bananas and jackfruit, all these things are quite very much present in the first passage. And ultimately, the writer shifts to the second passage where she talks about the month of June, where monsoon seems to break, and because of monsoon, many new plants, like it is going to be tropica fences, and after that pepper vines, and then come certain other creepers. He talks about that, writer talks about that, and ultimately comes towards the potholes of PWD. By talking like that, the writer can shift this thing to the description of some human beings, like the paragraph which begins with "It was raining when Rahil came back to Eminim." So the very first character is introduced to us with the name Rahil, and definitely she's a girl, and she's being told to come back to Eminim. So Eminim is a place where the story is going to be enacted. All stories will merge into that story of Eminim as well. That's why Eminim becomes very much important. In this situation, the writer is again telling about the situation of Eminim, the building, the place where we have number of plants, number of vices in the garden, number of frogs, and number of other things. Maybe certain birds, certain bullfrogs, and certain mongoose. These are the animals. So shifting from, first of all, from fruit to the plantation to the creepers, and ultimately reaching towards the animals. This is the combination, ideal combination created about the world of man, where man was living in Eminim, and ultimately the surrounding was like that. Immediately after mentioning all that, the writer comes to the man-made world as well. For example, one of the objects is described in the paragraph which says, the house itself looked empty. The doors and windows were locked, the front veranda bare, unfurnished, but the sky blue plymouth with chrome tail fins was still parked outside, and inside Baby Kuchama was still alive. So this is the paragraph which introduces to us another character, Baby Kuchama. First it was Rahil, then it is Baby Kuchama. But in between these two people, we have certain man-made objects. For example, it is doors, windows, veranda, and ultimately comes to a car or a vehicle which is standing there in the veranda, inside and outside. It's an old-fashioned vehicle having fins in that, and the company is Plymouth, and the color is going to be sky blue. The students who are going to appear in the examination, they should see that some kind of objective is available here in the shape, style, and color of the car. So Rahil, first of all, was introduced, and later on Baby Kuchama was introduced. I must say, before going further from this paragraph, she was Rahil's baby grand aunt. Before we go further, I must say that this is the chapter whose beginning is actually a type of summary of the whole novel, which stories will be talked about here. Each paragraph goes to tell us something about the next coming story, though the story will be described somewhere later in the depth of the novel, not here presently. Here, only glimpses will be given to us, a type of snapshots will be given to us, and these snapshots are being provided from here onward. For example, first of all, about Baby Kuchama, as it was talked in the last line, Baby Kuchama She was Rahil's baby grand aunt, her grandfather's younger sister. Her name was really Nawami AP, but everybody called her baby. She became baby Kuchama when she was old enough to be an aunt. Rahil hadn't come to see her, though. Neither niece nor baby grand aunt labored under any illusion on that account. Rahil had come to see her brother Estha. They were two egg twins, zygotic. Doctors called them, born from separate but simultaneously fertilized eggs. Esthapin was the older by 18 minutes. So, very cleverly, a little bit of the history of baby Kuchama has been talked about, and the writer should not be misled by the word baby. So, the explanation comes there that baby Kuchama was just like an aunt. She was not just so small a baby. It's only the pun on the word baby as well as some kind of irony on the character of that woman that is used here. Otherwise, it was not a baby at all. She was a big grand aunt, but she didn't have the good relationship with the girl Rahil. Instead of coming to meet this baby Kuchama, Rahil was coming to meet Estha, whose name is going to be Esthapin in full. Estha and Rahil are the twins, and they are the twins which were born one after the other by the difference of only 18 minutes. So in this way, the paragraph is loaded with the information that who was baby Kuchama, who was Estha, who was Rahil, and what is the kind of special thing about Estha and Rahil. This is described in this paragraph. So the story will be not only the story of baby Kuchama, but also the story will be of Rahel and Estha and their relationship between them and their kind of life they are having. All these things will be talked about. So these are the people which are the gist, which are the important. All stories will be about them, related to them, and converging into them in Eminem House. And next, in the same tone, the writer continues to talk about they never did look much like each other, etc. So, I mean, she's going to talk about the nature of being twin, what happens at that time, and what was the difference between these two. All this writer talks about. But we must go to some other part of the text by moving to the other paragraphs. For example, here is the paragraph close to the top. In those early amorphous years when memory had one only just begun, when life was full of beginnings and no ends and everything was forever, as Tappan and Rahel thought of themselves together as me and separately, individually, as we are us, as though they were a rare breed of Siamese twins, physically separate but with joint identities. So this paragraph throws some light on the child psychology that when the children are younger, they don't have the differences from each other, and because of the absences of differences, they count themselves one. They may be calling themselves me as well. They may be calling us as well. So in this way, these twins, children's psychology has been talked about to us in this passage. So the writer is going to talk a lot actually about the psychology of the children. So in that way, this paragraph again goes to hint that the story is going to be about Rahil and Esa. Rahel and Esther do have their own, problems of growing up. For example, here, if this small paragraph is considered, this is another type of story. For example, she remembers, for instance, though she hadn't been there, what the orange drink man, lemon drink man did to Esther in Abilash Talkies. She remembers the taste of the tomato sandwich, Esther's sandwich that Esther ate on the Madras mail to Madras. So in that way, what is going to happen actually, another part of the story is being indicated in this part of the text, and that is the part of the story where Estha's meeting with orange drink, lemon drink man will be talked about. The incident will be discussed, but here just only snapshot has been told to us in a very, minor manner so that it could be later on expanded. In that way, the story glimpses are coming up, and the page 3 therefore goes to talk more about these things like it is edges, borders, boundaries, brinks, and limits. This is the kind of style of the writer. However, the writer has used one gentle half moon image in order to describe the age of Amu, that she was not that young, she was not that old, she was middle-aged woman, and that is why the age is first of all told to us that she was going to be the person who's 31-year old, and the writer says that she was neither old nor young, but was at a viable, diable age. So that's the style of the text or the language, as I pointed out in the introduction, that similar sounding words, compounding words, and in this way constructing new details as it has been done here as a viable, diable age. That is the kind of thing which the writer is especially talking about. So, okay, let's proceed further and dig more into the lives of Rahil and Estha, what they actually are and how they are. They were nearly born on a bus. Estha and Rahil, the car in which Baba, their father, was taking Amu, their mother, to hospital in Shillong to have them. broke down on the way. So this is the story being described in this paragraph, that when these two babies were to be born, at that time their car was broken down on the way, and they had to travel by bus in order to reach the hospital. In the bus, for example, people were making space for Amu because Amu was having a big belly because of two babies inside her, and the incident could have been very beneficial for them. For example, if they were born in the bus, then surely they would be able to get more scholarship from the bus. And the same way, the zebra crossing is the thing which is talked about in detail. That zebra crosses has its own importance, and they wanted to be born there. They wanted to see what zebra crossing is going to be. They are having a type of child psychology once again here, that zebra is a kind of, thing which is an animal, but the strips of the animal have been compared with the road strips. However, as a child, however, it's not possible for the child to link up these two things together. And then ultimately, the writer takes us to another story. That's the story of the burial of Sophie Mole, the girl, the baby who is dead, and her funeral is being done there. So it means this is something first incident that goes to take place, that she is going to be buried. And right now, the details are being provided to us that Sophie Mole is lying in her coffin, and prayers are being said for her, and she will be buried after some time. The details of the prayers will be provided here, that we shall read in our next lesson. But however, we shall be trying to find out that the incident, why Sophie Mole died, where from her funeral has come, this is not being told here. That will be told in a separate story in next coming chapters, not here. So in that way, this chapter is introducing different parts of the story of God of Small Things, and it's trying to let us know what is going to happen in this novel. So far we know that the novel is going to talk about Sophie Mole also. It's going to talk about Estha and Rahel. This novel is going to talk about Baby Kuchama also. And in that way, a little bit details of the Amu, the mother of these two people, will also be talked about. So this is the introduction of the novel. I am trying to keep this video as short as possible so that my students can understand. So in the second lesson, we shall be talking about Sophie Mole's burial and her prayer session, which is being held in the church. So far, for this purpose, it has ended. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully, meeting you in some next video in the same way. Thank you very much. Bye bye.